Frank's Red Hot is the perfect blend of flavor and heat, so you can use an entire bottle to make recipes like buffalo chicken dip or buffalo nachos, or even things that don't start with buffalo. Frank's Red Hot. I put that on everything.
Craig.
I flew from Phoenix, Arizona, all the way to Tacoma to go to a Cheez-It Bowl party. After going to, sorry, this is too funny because I didn't have to change the lyrics at all.
Yeah, you didn't at all, actually.
Okay,
that's the secret. Just find a song with Tacoma actually in the lyrics, and then you're good.
Oh,
and Phoenix in the lyrics.
Yeah. I had other stuff in the song, but
I'm sure you've been to Philadelphia, Atlanta, and LA.
Well, I didn't. I had
just not on this trip.
I had replaced that with other stuff, but I laughed too hard, and now it's done. It's over. It was just funny. I was like, it was last week. I was thinking about that. I'm like, that's the song I'm gonna do. I have to do that song.
Yeah. Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah, because I yesterday went from Phoenix, Arizona, all the way to Tacoma. So, yeah.
But not Philadelphia, Atlanta, and LA. Not this time.
Yeah, I don't think that was all one day in that.
In the song.
Yeah.
Are we sure?
Yeah. Sounds like a really shitty day. That would be a terrible day. Although I did read this story. I don't know. Maybe you're familiar. I mean, you're a frequent flyer, so maybe I'm sure you're familiar with this. But I read a story today in the Washington Post about people taking a bunch of flights at the end of the year in order to get their perks for the next year because they're short on miles by whatever, and they need 2,000 miles or something. So they make they take these flights across the country or to Europe or whatever for no reason other than to really basically rack up miles. Yeah, I know some people that did that. I was tempted to do it because I'm falling short this year, but by the time I looked up flights, they were like that wasn't worth the money. But I knew I was not going to fly as much next year, so because it's definitely like flying's a lot easier when you have status, and so I don't blame people that do it. Well, because the thing is, it has to be a flight that you buy because they don't give you credit for if you use your points on a flight. They don't give you credit for the like in terms of your flyer miles. Even though otherwise I would have hit it if that counted, but I didn't.
Yeah, well, I'm sure somebody somewhere decided it would be funny to rack up miles by going from Phoenix to Tacoma to Philadelphia, Atlanta, and LA all in one day, and as a little classic rock tribute to Steve Miller. Yeah,
I know a Coug named Mark, who you might know. He's a big Sounders fan.
Oh yeah, I know Mark.
I think he flew to Boston. And he might have done another trip to get that Alaska MVP gold status.
Hey, I get it. Anyway, welcome to Flight Talk with Jeff and Craig.
Yeah, some may call it formerly known as Podcast versus Everyone.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's the name of the show.
But as we say, you'll probably hate it. We don't care.
Yeah, we don't care. What's up?
I don't know
How much fun did you have?
I had a lot of fun.
I'm so jealous.
Yeah, it's so funny. I was talking to Brian and his fiance and Katie and another Katie that we were doing a lot of stuff with, and we it was just like I wasn't too, and I know Brian wasn't either, but like not too bothered by the game. I don't know if it was because we were just having fun down there, and like there wasn't much to bother me about it. Like I guess I had talked about it on last week that I didn't see myself getting very mad or anything if we lost. And so I guess that came to fruition. I thought the Cheez-It Bowl itself was very fun to attend. It was definitely like a smaller crowd than was at the Alamo Bowl or, the holiday bowls that I've been to. But the Cougs that were there were having fun, and the Cheez-It Bowl with doing Pat McAfee emceeing and all the Cheez-It branding, and you could buy Cheez-Its at the concession stand, which I've never seen at a football game before. Yeah. And then we bought the Cheez-It walking taco, which was real nice. It had this
surprisingly good pulled pork in it, and
nice.
And then the chili dog, that was the disappointing item. It was just a regular, not very good chili dog with like five Cheez-Its on the top. So actually, we had bought some bags of Cheez-Its already when we got our drinks, and because that's as one does, you pair the vodka tonic with the with the Cheez-It.
Of course.
The classic pairing, as anyone would tell you.
Of course.
But so we dumped, Cheez-Its, they always have the crunched up Cheez-Its at the bottom, like that are almost dust.
Right.
And so those were perfect on top of that Cheez-It Cheez-It chili dog. Like we just dumped those. And so we had a good time. We got a selfie with Pat McAfee that the WSU Athletics actually retweeted when Brian tweeted it out.
I saw that.
So we had a good time. I don't know if we want to talk about what else I did that weekend, but
I'm sure we'll get to all that.
We'll get to that.
Like one of the things that I thought was really cool, and you can maybe speak to this, but it sure seemed like the Cheez-It Bowl really leaned hard into the goofiness of being a lower tier bowl, which I think is something you really have to do.
Absolutely.
Because if you try to take it like this is very serious. You're in a bowl game, and it's like, bro, it's the Cheez-It Bowl. It's like ridiculous by nature, and it seemed like I said, that they leaned into that, and I don't know, just from afar, it seemed like that was a contributor to the fun that was had.
Yeah, definitely. And I didn't feel like a lot of Cougs that were there took it seriously. Maybe because we got that vibe from the bowl itself. Like McAfee had this big like pep talk right before the game over the PA about, or like it was like a little bit into the game during like a TV timeout, like about how to kickers and punters and how they're the most important and all this stuff. And we're kind of joking like probably not today, but but yeah, so, and obviously the game itself, there's a lot, I wouldn't say there was a lot more Air Force fans, but there was a lot more Air Force fans than I thought there would be there. I don't know if they were Air Force people. I talked to a few, but I didn't generally ask them if they like were in the Air Force. I didn't want to sound condescending or anything.
Yeah.
A lot of the vibe from the Coug fans was like, well, we got lost to an Air Force Academy, so we're not going to like talk shit to the fans after the game. Like we were just kind of nice. We're like, hey, you guys are 11-2. We know that's pretty fun.
Yeah, we had fun with that last year.
It's pretty good though. We got to see Anthony Gordon and his family after the game, and just
cool.
randomly at the same place we were at, and so got to talk to Anthony Gordon's dad for a bit, and tell him we appreciate his son, and we got to give some fist bumps to Gordo and.
No, you didn't walk up to him and say, you were really great this year, but you threw a few too many interceptions for my liking.
No.
No, you didn't do that?
No,
not like all of our other fans?
BA actually just gave a fist bump and said, 5,000 yards, fuck yeah, or something like that.
Gordon, by the way, I was going to say, he seems like the kind of guy who would know exactly how many yards he had.
Yeah. Well, he actually seemed a bit melancholy.
No, I think he wanted to win, but
yeah, he didn't seem like super hyped.
Yeah,
he probably didn't want to like run into fans, but we just gave him fist bump and left him alone.
That's awesome.
We ended up talking to his dad, but that was cool. That probably cool. There was like a lot. We had a lot of fun. Emma and I had some drinks with Gabe Marks the night before. So like there was a lot of Coug people that we know there. But yeah, there was I wouldn't say like it was like an overwhelming amount of Cougs, but it was enough to where you could definitely hang out with Cougs easily the whole time.
It looked like a hell of a time.
Yeah, it was great, and yeah, like you said, the bowl game itself was just it's kind of as farcical as it should be, and we had fun, just getting hyped about Cheez-Its and all that.
Yeah, and on the plus side, you didn't have to listen to the television broadcast, so good for you.
Yeah.
Did you watch it? Now that you're home?
I'm not.
Okay,
I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, don't do that. If you do, like,
Watch the 60-minute version.
No.
And turn the volume off.
They probably won't make one. They didn't make one of the Alamo Bowl last year. I don't think.
Really?
I don't think the Pac-12 network has rights to do it.
Usually they do if it's with one of their partners. So games that are broadcast on ESPN.
Well, Alamo Bowl was broadcast on ESPN. So
yeah. So I don't know. Anyway, yeah, it was the
because
broadcast
I don't know
was
if
painful.
you've noticed there was never 60-minute that came out of the Houston game either.
Interesting.
Yeah, I just don't think they have the rights to do it.
Huh. Weird. Because I know I've seen broadcasts, 60-minute broadcasts of other bowl games.
Well, you've seen 60-minute broadcasts, interestingly, of the Sun Bowl, and the CBS is not a broadcast partner of Pac-12.
True.
So maybe that's the only way they would do it if they aren't a broadcast partner. So I don't know. But I already deleted it off my DVR. I don't really care to watch it again. So
yeah, I don't blame you because it was yeah, not a fun. It was that was the thing for as goofy as the game was and as silly as just sort of like the all the Cheez-It stuff that we've been talking about, just all those things. The game itself was not at all the entertaining slugfest that I think we kind of thought we were going to get, or I don't know how to best to describe it, but it definitely was not what we thought maybe we were going to get.
Well, yeah, we were kind of thinking the WSU defense would give up some big plays, and so
yeah,
but actually they didn't. They just
Nope.
never stopped them. They just Air Force only averaged 5 yards of play.
Yeah, 5 yards of play.
And that was that's pretty much literally what it was, 5 yards of play.
It really was.
It felt like that because they ran 73 plays and we only ran 59, I think, or
we ran
like
50
50
plays.
Yeah, 50 plays
in 8 drives.
Yeah, so
bonkers.
Yeah, Air Force ran the ball 69 times, only 5.4 a carry. I thought that might have been a little higher. When they didn't make big plays in the passing game, really. They had first down, some first downs, but nothing too explosive. Because
not at all.
4 of 12 with a pick and 30 yards.
Yep.
They had 81 plays. Sorry, I was just looking at the runs. It was a grinder, man. But when we failed on fourth down on the first drive, BA and I both looked at each other and they said, "Game's probably over right now."
Yeah, that's what it felt like.
Because let's see, what did we have? 7 or 8 drives?
8 drives.
They had 7 real drives, I guess.
Yeah,
then.
They had 7 real drives.
And so they punted once and kicked a field goal once.
Yeah, it was just,
or maybe they punted twice.
It was so hard to watch on TV. I mean, look at the bowl game. You're hanging out with your friends.
Oh, no, they had a pick and a punt. But
yeah, so their drive at the end of the first half, I would not consider a real drive, but that's all right. It's. You're there having fun with your friends, and you probably had a few beverages, and life was pretty good. And even though it was terrible, whatever, in your basement watching on TV as I was, it was just like, oh my god, this is so painful. And then I had the broadcast duo of Ryan Leaf and some other chump breathlessly spouting nonsense into my ears for 3 hours, and that wasn't great either. So
it just sets it's like one of those games where Leach often hates on the air raid, or Leaf hates on the air raid quite a bit, and this was prime setup for him because they're playing a team that runs the ball nonstop.
Yeah, he wasn't too bad about that this time.
That's good.
Yeah, but he was calling for Max Borghi to get more runs, even though he had basically nothing outside of one big gain on the first drive,
including he had the carries on the 2 biggest plays of the game for them, essentially. Yeah,
and got stuffed both times. The first one, probably, I don't know. If I want to give him the benefit of the doubt on the first one, I go, okay, that probably was set up like, I don't know who's going to probably make that play. Like, he had two guys chasing him down, and that was, he probably didn't have a lot of chance of success there. The second one, he just miscalculated badly. like he probably had a chance to make that guy miss, and instead decided, nah, I'm going to truck him. And he got stood straight up in the hole. And it was just,
and then of course, Air Force had their fourth down. They went for it and scored a touchdown and
over and over. Well, and that was the 5 yards of play thing, right? Like you knew they were going to get 5 yards on two of any four plays in a sequence, right? And then they'd probably get a positive play on one of the other ones. And so they were probably going to get, 12 to 13 yards no matter what, if they were going to run 3 or 4 plays. It's like, about the only time that they really didn't do it is when they kind of screwed themselves. There was one drive where they got, in the red zone, and then they just inexplicably threw it on like 2nd down and 8 or whatever it was. And put themselves in a hole. Then they had to throw on 3rd down, and it just was, I don't know why they did that, but thank you. Like, that was part of what kind of allowed us to stay in the game a little bit longer. But alas, it was a mirage. It was a mirage.
Yeah. Obviously, the game was on the line on that 4th and goal that they had. I believe it was from the 3 or 4, and then the Air Force running back made a nice play. That diving play did not look like a touchdown at first, and then it was reviewed, and once they showed the replay, it looked like he got in on the replay, but
he did get in.
Yeah,
sure.
Like he definitely stretched it out. It was a nice stretch. But you were hoping he lost the ball before he crossed, and it was funny on the field. Like, it looked like Borghi had gotten that first, like the second 4th down. It looked like he had gotten it.
Yep.
And we all kind of assumed he did, and then it was reviewed, and they said, or no, that it wasn't reviewed. Or I can't remember. Maybe it wasn't reviewed, and we were all confused. But then. I think we were seeing on
in the stadium it probably looked like he was past it. On TV it was like the moment it happened it was like nope, I think it's about a half yard short.
About where our seats were pretty aligned too. I was shocked how weird it looked. But
you didn't have the benefit of a line on the screen.
Yeah, we do not have a yellow line.
And it was like I'm looking and going, I don't think he got to that yellow line. And what was so weird about it is that a lot of people, I'm sure, looked at the point total and went, 21 points. The offense had a really horrible day. And it was like, but they, the 4th down runs, and which was a trend really of, red zone problems they've had all year, right? Where, and you even, I mentioned this on Twitter, you let us know when we previewed this last week that Air Force's red zone defense was really, really good. And that's sort of what they did, and sure enough, that's what they did to us. And
because outside of the red zone, WSU was just getting 10 yards, 10, 15 yards every play.
Yep. And so, you look at the first half, you had 71 first drive, 8 plays, 71 yards, and they went 60 whatever of those yards in about 5 plays. Right. And then second drive, 11 plays, 74 yards. Third drive was the fumble where they had the missed blocking assignment, and then Gordon was maybe not as careful with the football as he should have been while stepping up in the pocket. And then last drive of the half, 5 plays, 75 yards. The offense was basically outside of a 4th down stop and a blown blocking assignment that resulted in another fluky turnover. Like, they were doing literally whatever they wanted to do, which is all you really want. So, the offense was plenty good enough, but
they just didn't have the ball very much.
They just didn't have the ball very much, and
because and
it feels really different if they convert those red zone chances, even if they convert one of them, and you go, okay, you scored 4 touchdowns on 8 drives, like. That's pretty good, to get touchdowns on 50% of your drives. That's in a normal game. That's, 6 touchdowns. So you're talking 42 points in a normal game. So, you feel pretty okay about that. Just that, the defense can't stop anyone. it seems like our fans a lot just kind of took it for granted that the defense was horrible and decided that the offense had to do more. And I'm like, it's like, can't we just, I don't know, like, can't we just say, yeah, I mean, they really, the offense really had no chance on this one other than scoring touchdowns on 5 of their 8 drives, which, they were basically a whisper away from doing, right? 2 yards and then half a yard. So they were 2.5 yards away from scoring 5 touchdowns on their 8 drives and probably winning the game. So yeah, it's a bummer, but it was a pretty perfect microcosm of the season, I would say.
Yeah. It's fine. You have this. Some fans are mad because it's like a service academy and we should beat them. But Air Force is, like we said in the SP Plus rankings, they were 27th, we were 25th. Air Force was ranked in the AP and the coaches poll.
Yep.
Just because they're a service academy doesn't mean they're not good. Like, they do this to a lot of teams.
Yep.
Maybe our defensive philosophy didn't work out so great because it basically allowed them to keep our offense off the field. The first drive they had was 12 minutes long, and that was by the way, it was. I've never been in a game. I've never watched a game in person where it's it's where you're watching this triple option just taking these small chunks down the field, and it just, you kind of are like, because you're not like as aware of time and score all the time as you are when you're watching on TV, where it's presented in front of you constantly,
right,
where it's just right there underneath every time.
Right, and announcers are constantly saying, this drive, they're on the 10th play of the drive.
Yeah,
and it's 6.5 minutes have elapsed.
So you're just like, how long has this been? You're like, when did we turn the ball over? When it, like, this has been so long, and but their drive went over the quarter break and all that stuff, and you're just like, oh, we're in for it now. Like, we missed on we got 0 on the first drive. They got 7 on the first drive. There's already not very many drives left in this game because we're already in the second quarter.
Right. We've had one drive that lasted 2.5 minutes, and now we're already in the second quarter. It was crazy.
Yeah, it was wild. The defense was like, it's kind of funny to wish they would have just given up bigger chunks, maybe gambled a little more or something.
That's the thing, right? Like you're like, okay, you can't just let them, cut you to death 5 yards at a time.
It's like that's what they want.
Exactly. And it's, Alex, if we compare it to what Alex Grinch, his philosophy was over the years he was here, where it was like, hey, let him move the ball, wait for him to screw up, tighten up in the red zone, all that kind of stuff, right? Don't give up a big play. I think that works a lot better when the other team's going to put the ball in the air, right? Because at some point, maybe they get a 0-yard play. And that's what happened to Air Force on that one drive, right? They get a 0-yard play and all of a sudden they're completely out of whack. Waiting for a service academy to make a mistake is kind of a stupid strategy.
Yeah.
And they did make some mistakes. They made a couple, and they paid for them, right? In the second half, they had some drives stall out because of a couple of penalties. And,
yep.
So I guess maybe that was the idea, but thinking that was going to happen often enough to warrant just letting them have 5 yards at a time every play almost was like, that was a very strange idea. And, I understand there's maybe only so many things you can do to sell out for negative plays, but, I think after the first drive, it was like, yeah, scrap that thing and, sell out, get some negative plays. And, if you give up a big one, whatever, but, you put them in a hole and you can change things,
right.
Like even just all it takes is one big negative play, as we saw in the second half, right? Like one big negative play changes their entire calculus. So I was surprised that we didn't do more to try and cause that to happen. I understand that's not a real, sound philosophy against the triple option, because you're going to give up some big plays doing that. They'll find the holes and, you'll get gashed. But, if the alternative is 5 yards at a time marching up and down the field all night, and particularly when you have an explosive offense, and I understand like there's an argument to be made that, well, if we had gotten more possessions, they would have just gotten more possessions, which is true. But, in some ways, as we've seen this year with the offense, because it's prone to making mistakes and sort of killing themselves like that fumble or whatever, having more bites at the apple, I think, is more beneficial to our offense than it is to other offenses, if that kind of makes sense. And so, if we had somehow even if we had given up big plays on a couple more drives, maybe we get a couple more touchdowns, maybe they don't. I don't know. Like, I think we maybe have a chance if we do that. Anyway, I think the philosophy was all wrong. I think you've got to pair a high variance philosophy with our offense. And that's what, Grinch kind of did. I understand I'm kind of talking out of both sides of my mouth on that one, but definitely turnovers were prioritized. Negative plays were prioritized under Grinch. They just played soft on the back end. So,
it's also a bit of a rough week to talk about Alex Grinch.
Yeah. Well, I mean, come on, like it doesn't matter who LSU is going to play. I mean, LSU is going to do that to Clemson. It doesn't even matter. Like they're going to LSU. Yeah, it would not matter who the defensive coordinator was in that game, man. But at any rate, it's, it was disappointing that the defensive philosophy was what it was. By the way, just speaking to something else you kind of said about, maybe people feeling like, oh, it's a service academy, we ought to be able to, do whatever. I mean, all over Twitter, you probably weren't on Twitter a whole lot during the game, but all over Twitter was like, they're just running the ball, make an adjustment and stop them. And I'm like,
it's
the
triple option.
I'm like, oh my God, and maybe their game plan was bad. There were enough like high school coaches out there being like, no, their game plan is bad against this. Okay, fine. But at the same time, if it were that easy to stop, they wouldn't run it. And if it were that easy to stop, Paul Johnson wouldn't have run it to pretty good effect at Georgia Tech. I mean, it's not that easy to stop. What was more discouraging to me was the fact that it looked like their athletes on offense were as good or better than our athletes on defense. And that's a pretty discouraging thing. Like that last touchdown, the dude basically outran, 3 guys who were in pretty good position to make the stop, outran him to the corner. And, that's the sort of thing that just doesn't make you feel great about, next year, because it's not like they're going to get more athletic in the offseason.
Yeah. That fourth down touchdown that basically iced the game. It looked like they had him beat.
Yep.
But they just let the guy beat him to the corner. And,
yep. They all, obviously there are lots of times this year when the defense took, bad angles and you go, okay, well, bad angle. They all looked like they were in position and they all took, what seemed to be reasonable angles, and they just got beat. They just got beat by a running back for a service academy. And that is frustrating as hell, and then watching our linebackers just get trucked repeatedly and drug on a dive. Like that stuff just doesn't make me feel great.
I honestly think that Air Force could have ran fullback dive all day.
Pretty much.
And won that game just as easily.
Yeah. They dealt with it a little better in the second half, I thought. But yeah, that's what was discouraging to me, was because, you're always kind of thinking, what does this mean for next year? And obviously scheme doesn't mean anything. We're going to have a different, at least I pray to God, we're going to have a different defensive coordinator. But just kind of looking at the athletes and just going like, oh man, we are not there. Although I will say this, did you guys take notice of Lamont McDougal and what he did? Because he had a hell of a game.
Definitely did. He was disruptive at times.
Yep.
Definitely the guy that we thought we hoped we were getting. And he's been showing that in spurts occasionally, but he showed it a few more times against Air Force. So I don't know if it was just nicer because he's playing against some smaller offensive linemen or what, but hopefully that was a good sign for next year. Maybe he's finally got his kind of feet under him and he can start making plays.
I hope so. I think maybe they kind of turned him loose and said, hey, penetrate and disrupt. Just go to a gap and attack and try and disrupt. And maybe that's where they were, trying to shoot for their negative plays or trying to force the ball, out of the dive or something. But yeah, he was encouraging. I think the defensive line has potential. Ron Stone, I thought, had a pretty nice game. So, I think the defensive line's got some potential. Still not feeling great about it.
Just remember, we have to put all of our predictions for next year have to be based on how each and every player that's coming back played in this one game.
That's right, because bowl games are very important.
And we'll talk. You're talking about not having to listen to the broadcast is nice because the bowl games, because it's like this selling point thing. Like every broadcast team just goes over the top in promoting the teams.
Yeah,
and promoting the importance of this game.
Oh yeah,
like
very important.
I was watching 7-5 Louisville beat 6-6 Mississippi State, and I know that Louisville only won 2 games last year, and it was a big deal.
Big jumping off point.
They're just talking about how this game proves that they're headed in the right direction, and like, okay, so they beat another 6-6 team. Like, how many other 6-6 teams did they beat this year? Like, how many? They've got all their momentum. Teams? Yeah, like, okay, so they prove they can beat another 6-6 team. Like, this is not. It's just because it has bowl attached to it doesn't mean it's important.
Momentum for 2020, Craig.
Yeah. There's 2 bowls, or you could say all the New Year's 6 bowls. We like to take seriously just because they're spectacles and big matchups, unless it's the second place ACC team getting into one of them. But other than that, like, if you're in the Cheez-It Bowl or the Music City Bowl or whatever, just take it for what it's worth. Like, and definitely, like, for WSU, we were in the worst bowl in our pecking order, and the Air Force was in the second best bowl in their pecking order. So it's a much, like, it comes in, like, I know the players probably think it's just as big a deal, but I don't know if, like, the players do. Like, if when they played in the Alamo Bowl last year, which is very clearly a bigger deal, it was played in front of 60,000 people in the Alamo Dome, and, like, but this is played in a baseball stadium, which already kind of, you're kind of like, okay, like, you get in there and you see the foul poles. That was kind of wild, and the giant Cheez-It box or whatever, which wasn't as giant as you would hope, but yeah, it was just like, it's the Cheez-It Bowl. I don't know how mad I can get about this, and I don't know what I can take. We're not going to play another triple option team next year. Like, so I don't know what I can take away from that. Yeah, like you said, we should have a different defensive coordinator. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, take
we're gonna have a different quarterback. We're gonna have a different quarterback. We're gonna have two new outside receivers.
A couple of new linemen.
We're gonna lose in the top receiver as well. So I don't know. Like, Brandon Arcanato had 167 yards or whatever.
Yeah.
So, but also Anthony Gordon was his favorite target. So I mean, they're leaving together. So it was Anthony Gordon's favorite target. So
yeah.
I don't know what else. Jameer Calvin's coming back next year. So
we hope.
I don't know what can you? I know. Hopefully.
I hope.
I hope. But yeah, I don't know. Like, again, it's just like you can't read.
No.
Like these aren't like the state of program defining games.
No.
That the broadcasts and the bowl promoters will want you to believe. And again, that was part of what it was refreshing about the Cheez-It Bowl is I don't know what it was like in the broadcast, but in person it was like, this is not. It's because it's the same people that promote the Fiesta Bowl, so they know they have this important one. So they have this other one that's just for fun, and it is,
right.
And so they make it fun. But yeah, this is not program defining when you lose to a service academy in a low tier bowl. So I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it sucks. Like,
it does suck. Winning is always better.
Yeah, you want to win.
It would have been way more fun if WSU had more possessions, and it would be way more fun if they converted those fourth downs. And I mean, it would have been more fun if they got that stop at the end and they would had a chance to go like 92 yards or 99 yards to win the game. Like that those are more fun outcomes. But it didn't happen. So I get it. Like, you're bummed. But there's nothing that can be said about the program. Like, we pretty much we didn't already know about it going into this game.
Yeah, it's you just don't make grand proclamations from this stuff, and putting too much into it.
I think we should recruit Air Force kids better.
Yeah. Maybe we should do that. Maybe we should recruit. Look at who Air Force is recruiting.
We got to build up our ROTC program.
Let's stop recruiting Washington and start recruiting Air Force kids.
Let's just find whoever Air Force has on their radar.
That's right.
And
let's offer those guys.
Offer those kids.
Yeah, the players obviously want to win. It means a lot to them. I mean, like last year we saw, the Alamo Bowl. I mean, they obviously were very excited, to win that game. And
that was also different. So they knew they were setting a record, a school record, if they won that game.
So all of those things. But, you said you saw, Gordon later, and, he was subdued. I mean, they want to win. They really want to win. Okay, so great. But from a fan perspective, we've watched bowl games for long enough to know that at least every fan should know that these games are just they're not predictive at all. They don't tell you anything. They don't show you anything. They are weird one-off games in which everything is different than what it normally is. The practice schedules, the travel schedules, all the stuff that goes around the game. The opponents are unfamiliar. Man, the coaches, like half the time they're having practices and all the coaches aren't even there. They're out recruiting and stuff. It's the whole thing is just, it's weird. It's weird.
Yeah, especially with the middle of December signing day thing now.
And so you never know how the team's going to respond. You just don't. Now, I don't know. Maybe you can read something into the fact that we seem to, play badly most of the time in bowl games. Maybe you can read something into that. I don't know. But, I kind of look and go, well, if we win that first New Mexico Bowl, all of a sudden the bowl record doesn't look quite as bad. I don't know. It's again, you can talk yourself into circles trying to reason it, and it's best just not to.
I of course immediately on diehard Cougs or whatever on Facebook, was looking on Facebook and saw someone I knew it was coming, Leach's 1 in whatever in Apple Cups and 2 in whatever in bowl games. And I'm like, well, I know that those are probably the only 2 games you pay attention to all year. Right. So I mean, I guess if that's your barometer for the program, then this is terrible. Every game
program's
we watch,
in terrible shape.
Almost every game we watch, they lose. If those were the only games you pay attention to, it would not be fun. You would just watch us lose to Minnesota and Colorado State and Air Force and whoever else, Michigan State.
Let's just run through them all.
But you would also watch us beat Miami and beat Iowa State, which also, if you were at the Alamo Bowl, beating Iowa State got way more fun once you interacted with once there was 60,000 of their fans and 10,000 of yours. But anyway, and I think that there is a not insignificant portion of the fan base that only pays attention to the Apple Cup and then the subsequent bowl game. So that's a lot. They see those 2 games in the last 2 months of the year, and then they just get frustrated. And it's okay. Watch more games then. We've won 45 games in that stretch, so just watch more games.
Yeah. So and the offense was fun to watch this year, even as the defense was a total train wreck. And
that was the bummer, is that we didn't get to watch the offense that much in this game, which is directly related to the defense. So
it was a major bummer. The offense barely had any chances to do anything.
Gordon had what we said 8 drives, and he's still through for 51 yards.
50 yards. I know.
Yeah, so that's
bonkers.
He's at 45 yards, almost 45 yards a drive passing, because we're and so if you put that out to 12, he's going over 500 easy, or I'm sorry, he's going 12 times 40, whatever. I don't feel like doing the math, but he's going 540, and so he's putting up gaudy numbers if he has more drives.
Well, he was at 8.4 yards per attempt.
Which is pretty much what he's been on all year.
Really good.
Yeah.
Really, really, really good.
Yeah, people appreciate that yards per attempt number as much as they should, because compared to past quarterbacks, it's quite a bit better. Even the better ones, Minshew and Holiday.
He was a full yard better than Minshew was last year. over the course of this season.
Yeah, which is wild. I kind of thought Mike Leach's version of the air raid had reached a point to where people are used to it enough that it couldn't be that explosive anymore. But maybe it can, because it was this year.
What I would like for us to do, I would like to have just a conversation about Gordon after the break. Is that cool?
Yeah, sure.
Talk about his place and how good the season was and all that stuff. Okay, cool. And we're back. Whew, buy that thing or subscribe to that thing.
Yeah, do all of that.
Yeah. So here's what I'm thinking. And the reason why is because I got a little salty with some fans, probably more salty than I should have in our comments section. But I mean, honestly, like I'm kind of tired of people crapping on Anthony Gordon. Like, and that seems to happen a lot in our comment section, and I'm struggling to kind of figure out why. After such a historic season, I think it really just boils down to they didn't win enough games overall. But like, I obviously
buying into the belief that the air raid is plug and play.
Yeah, like,
and it doesn't matter who you are.
It doesn't matter who you put back there. But I think, obviously you're on the same page with me that it's not plug and play, at least in the sense that the way people are thinking of it. Yes, like if you're any kind of competent, you're going to throw for like 4,000 yards, right? Like that's okay. Like that's probably the baseline for evaluation. He threw for 5,600 and threw for damn near 50 touchdowns and, placed fifth. And it's not like he was just doing it on volume of pass attempts. And by the way, that was kind of what Connor Halliday was doing back in 2014. Like, he was throwing the ball at a rate that like Gordon didn't throw at. Like he was just, like lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of passes. And the yards per attempt were a little bit suppressed because of that. Gordon, as I mentioned, Gordon's yard per attempt was a full yard better than what Minshew did last year, which is really kind of amazing. So I don't know, like kind of what's your take on that whole, just kind of this desire to put down this season that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me.
Well, it's funny, when we were, talking to his dad, basically we're like, we just want you to know like at least the four of us appreciate what he did. It's not his fault that the team didn't win as many games. Like, if we have the defense, if WSU has the same defense as they did in 2018,
yep,
the win total is probably the same this year, because you can just look at multiple games on the schedule that would go different. You get UCLA, Arizona State, Oregon, and like there's even Utah would have been much closer. WSU would have had more possessions in that game, would have scored, had more chances to score, because they wouldn't be giving up the same long drives like they were against Air Force. There's just multiple, like there's almost every loss outside of the Apple Cup. But and even Utah. Apple Cup, even Apple Cup in Utah, if there's a better defense, if there's last year's defense, there's a chance they're holding those two teams in the 20s, and WSU's getting maybe more possessions on offense and having more chances to score, and potentially, or maybe not having to be more desperate later in the game trying to catch up. They probably still lose those two games, but the other rest of them, I don't know. Even the Cal one, I could see because the defense got absolutely shredded by a horrible quarterback in that game.
Right.
And I do not see Jalen Thompson and Peyton Pallure and the rest of that team letting that happen.
Right.
So maybe just scoring, because last year 19 points was enough to beat Cal. This year 20 wasn't. So
right.
It's frustrating. And people just, they won't. It's weird that it just seems people won't admit it, that the the overall record impacts their ability to evaluate the quarterback.
Yeah.
And there's the lore of Gardner Minshew's ability to come back late in games, but Anthony Gordon scored to take the lead against Oregon with a minute left.
Yep.
You should
and
win
against
that game.
Arizona State.
And against Arizona State, he scored to take the lead with 3 minutes left. Like those, like what? Was it his fault? The defense, the defense last year made stops after WSU take the lead, so they made a stop against Cal. There was only. I guess did he run the offense too well? So that score against Oregon, they scored too fast.
Oh, that is still a thing. I learned today that is still a thing, that Gordon should have had better time management on that. And I'm just like, fuck that, dude. Like, that is just so, that is, and I said this on a comment, that to me is one of the most unfair criticisms I have ever heard about any player ever. I try not to be hyperbolic. Like, I try not to be like, oh, this is the big, whatever. Like, no, like really, like that is literally one of the most unfair things I've ever heard. That, they scored too quickly. Like one time he snapped the ball maybe 10 seconds before you would have preferred. Like that's your criticism, and you're going to blame the loss on him, or on some level, well, he should have known his defense was like, are you serious? Like, it just,
like, when you say that, it's like, of course, then so we agree. Then the defense is terrible. Oregon should have never even made it to 37 points in that game. That last drive, if the defense was last year's defense, they wouldn't have needed that last drive.
Like, you're really going to tell me that you're going to criticize a guy for scoring with less than a minute left in the game, and somehow it's his fault that they end up losing the game? I get all worked up all over again because it's silly. And in that particular argument too, the guy was like, oh yeah, it's, if I need a touchdown at the end of the game and I'm choosing a quarterback, and he made a list and Gordon was like fourth. And I'm like,
which
if
honestly, it's
the
not
defense,
that bad because the other guys were like Minshew and Holiday and
2015 Falk. Right.
So yeah, fine. Like, whatever. Those, it's like 1A and 1B and 1C. Although I don't know what Holiday did so much to deserve.
I don't either.
Like the late game winning.
He did it against Utah, and that was it.
I don't like. Again, that wasn't Holiday's
He
fault.
lost that game against Cal. What a choker.
Yeah.
I don't know. But, it's crazy to me because, like, if the defense could have done anything, he would have had 4 come from behind fourth quarter wins this year. And then is he the greatest fourth quarter quarterback of all time? Like, is that how it works? I mean, it's so faulty and it's so flawed and it's so frustrating. Like, it's okay to say that he had an amazing season and the team was disappointing. Like, both of these things can be true. And there's this obsession with, like, well, only one thing can be true. Like, well, Gordon threw too many interceptions, therefore he was just average. Like there were like multiple people who said average, and I'm just like, oh my God, my head is going to explode.
There was nothing average. Like we just
there was
said
nothing
about the
average about this season at all. Like, you want to go and compare him to Minshew last year. Okay, you want to say that Minshew had a better season. I mean, I guess I can. Okay, like obviously they won more games.
His mobility,
was
his ability
exceptional.
to avoid sacks and turn the ball over less.
Right, he took better care of the ball.
Argument, yeah,
100%. So okay, so those things I understand. Gordon was also a far superior passer. Like it's not even debatable. Like, so if you want to argue the ability to pass, like, Gordon is the superior passer. Like, by any metric that you want. Yards per attempt, overall yards, completion percentage, touchdowns. Yeah, he had more interceptions. Okay, he threw interceptions on, 2.5% of passes instead of 1.5% of passes, like Minshew did. Okay, fine. But like every other thing says that actually it was more effective. Even with the increased turnovers, it was more effective because of the explosiveness of the offense. So, okay, you want to do that, that's fine. But it's like it doesn't have to be, well, he was average. like why can't it be? He had this amazing season, and I didn't particularly care for the turnovers, which I thought, held the offense back a little. I mean, you can have a reasonable conversation there, but to be like, to denigrate the kid's season because the defense was such hot trash that they could only win 6 games. I don't know. Like, I'll never quite understand the need to trash on a guy, or to pick a villain, I guess. And I guess that gets invited when you're an air raid quarterback, but it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. The need to have a scapegoat, to have a villain, especially when by any objective measure he had a really amazing season. And if you didn't like his season, you either think wins are a great metric for evaluating quarterbacks, and they're not. It's a stupid way to evaluate quarterbacks, or you just hate the air raid to begin with. And I think there's probably plenty of people in both of those camps. And to be honest, anybody espousing either of those theories for evaluating a quarterback is going to get nothing but ridicule from me. And I make no apologies for that, because I think that's insane. And I think people need to be better than that.
Yep. I was, I'm glad I got to at least, I in the 1 second I got to talk to him, I just said, thanks for sticking around, and gave him a fist bump. And, because I know he sees this stuff in some way, the things that people say, like, yep. These are kids, they look it up. Like, so, and so it's just, it sucks that, people just have that. And I'm sure to a point, like, a competitive guy like him probably does take some responsibility for losses more than you and I would ascribe to him. But that's part of being a teammate. We are not their teammate. But
that's his job.
Yeah, that's his job.
That's not the fans'
We're just
job.
here. We're just here to analyze things, and I get that there's it obviously in any sport. The fans always love the players that are on the good team better.
Sure.
So like there's like like who didn't love Steve Scheffler on the Sonics in the 90s?
That's a good pull right there.
But Steve Scheffler was trash and never played, but everyone knew who he was. You could not name the 12th person on the team in the early 2000s after Peyton left and they were garbage or right before they left. But everyone knew all those players because the teams were good. And so it's the same thing. And obviously for WSU, your favorite players are always like we all love Gardner Minshew because last year was so much fun.
Yeah.
And he was fun with us. And I mean, we could say probably the personality is part of it too with Gordon because he's not Gardner Minshew. So he follows that up. If he follows Luke Falk up, no one knows the difference. Like sure. We'd probably say, oh man, this guy's got more personality than our last quarterback. But now you get, Gardner Minshew's you go from like the most bombastic guy we've had playing quarterback and, probably since Holiday. And then, but it was paired with a huge winning season and kind of this flash in the pan. And when we desperately needed, someone to kind of come in and give us some healing. So it was just so perfectly timed. But Gordon didn't have that. Gordon got to follow up that. And so so I've seen people talk about his much like his mannerisms and his personality. So I'm just making more and more references. But now let's look at when Klay Thompson was in college.
Yep, that was the one that came to mind for me for sure.
I'm so glad all of you WSU fans fucking love him now. Because guess what? We ran a WSU blog back then, and I know you all fucking didn't like him when he was at WSU because we didn't win. Like 100%. I know, I remember. So I'm glad you love him now.
We got the receipts, man. If we dug back into some of those posts and people talking about Clay's pouty face, his pouty face and his body language. Oh my god! I was having
flashbacks this season the way people talk about Gordon. Like it was just like
Gordon got a personal foul that one time, and people freak out. Like I don't like his attitude. He gets a guy's face. Like people allowed so many other things that had nothing to do with his actual play to color their evaluation of his actual play. And that's the part that gets frustrating to me is like, okay, fine. You want to have a good faith argument, statistically, whatever, results, etc. Fine. about the things that are in his control, fine. Like you want to talk about, his body language and how he, got in a defender's face that one time. Like, it just, like, come on. Like, those things don't actually matter, and here's the other thing. If you take this season and last season and just like as a weird thought exercise, flip flop them. So let's say Gordon's season comes last year and Minshew's season comes this year, right? Like, Gordon gets looked at completely differently, right?
Absolutely.
Like following on the heels of, 2017 Falk, which was, probably, I think, we would all agree maybe the worst, definitely the worst of his 3 seasons, but the worst air raid season since like maybe, Connor Halliday's first year starting in 2013. Like, that was, I went back and looked at some of that. Do you realize he threw 22 interceptions in 2013? 22 damn interceptions.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's just like, we
went to a bowl game.
And we went to a bowl game, which we lost, but whatever. If you flip flop them, I think you're right. I think you're onto something, that coming on the heels of Minshew, and Minshew has, I don't know, to put it, like I don't really know how to put this other than, Minshew is the kind of guy that old white people love, right? Because he's respectful, he's the gentleman, he does it the right way, he's gritty, all of those things, right? And Anthony Gordon maybe, talking a little trash is, let me clutch my pearls for a sec, I mean, it's, I think there's probably some of that too, that, with coming on the heels of Gardner Minshew, didn't really do him any favors. But the other thing that didn't do him any favors, by the way, when I was digging into this, was the rushing attack being substantially worse this year. And that's, I haven't dug too deep into it. I kind of started taking a few.
Are you trying to speak ill of Max Borghi?
Oh God, it's not Borghi specifically, just the line that was in front of him, probably. like I think the offensive line wasn't very good. People talk about the red zone. Oh, that was another comment. Oh, I don't like his, and that came up from a few different people. I didn't like Gordon's red zone decisions. Well, you know what? Anthony Gordon also had a terrible red zone rushing attack. And look, maybe, I don't know. Mike Leach could tell me this. Maybe Gordon was checking into bad runs. So that's entirely possible. I don't know this for sure because I don't know it well enough. But here's what I do know. Last year, we scored 22 red zone rushing touchdowns. Inside the 20, they averaged 3.5 yards per carry. Now, that yards per carry is obviously going to get suppressed because some of those carries are
1 yard,
short.
2 yard runs.
Right. Some of those carries are very
touchdowns,
short.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. This year, they had 10 red zone rushing touchdowns for an average yardage per carry of 1.7.
The touchdowns were 1.7, or just
all carries
1.7.
inside the 20. All carries inside the 20 went for an average of 1.7 yards.
Is that running back carries only?
Now that would include sacks. So I don't know. Again, I haven't completely parsed this out, but to me, just at first blush, that says not blocked very well. That's the difference. And then you eliminate Booby, right? You take your other red zone weapon out of there. It gets more difficult. So anyway, I just think he.
So I can tell. So actually, here I'll tell you.
Okay.
Max Borghi averaged 2.33 yards a carry in the red zone this year. Last year, Max Borghi averaged 4.29 yards a carry in the
So
red
there
zone.
you go. And that's probably as good of an apples to apples comparison as you're going to get. And that's to me that's an offensive line issue.
Like Max Borghi, who looked like a better player this year.
Yeah.
Like he just looked like he had more tools in the box.
Yep.
Averages 2 yards less a carry in the red zone.
Yep.
That's putting you in tougher situations, tougher passing situations.
Yep.
And it's forcing you to hit tight windows. And
Yep. And Gordon threw 20 more pass attempts in the red zone than Minshew did, and had 7 more touchdowns and 1 more interception. Now his, and maybe this is where people, maybe this is what they're remembering. So his completion percentage in the red zone was actually like 57%. So really low, which, says that obviously there were a lot of incompletions in there, more than you would expect. So, and that sort of jives with kind of what we saw a lot of times where maybe, first down incompletion, second down incompletion, maybe get the touchdown on third down, right? Sort of deal, which I think it feels like that happened quite a bit. I that's purely anecdotal, but
Minshew's was actually 68.9%,
right,
or 69%.
And I feel like a lot of Minshew's came from his ability to extend a play and the threat of him being able to run. Like teams knew that he could tuck it and go, and I feel like he got more than a few touchdowns. And again, this is purely anecdotal, so I don't know if this is accurate or not, but it felt like he got more than a few touchdowns where he scrambled, where he looked like he might run, and just kind of flipped the ball to somebody, that sort of thing. Gordon obviously didn't have that benefit because he wasn't that mobile. So, he just he didn't have maybe the same kind of tools to work with that. That Minshew did in a lot of ways, particularly in a running attack, and yet had a historic passing season. So he deserves all the kudos. If Minshew was more your flavor, then I won't begrudge you that. But if your conclusion is that he was average or above average, you are out of your damn mind and you don't know what you're talking about. So there you go.
All right.
Should we take another break and then talk some hoops?
Well, I want to talk about
you want to talk
weekend, but whatever.
The rest of your weekend?
I didn't know you wanted to go on a 30-minute rant about
sorry. I kind of hijacked that, didn't I?
Yeah, all right.
All right, let's take a break, and then we'll talk about what you want to talk about. How about that?
All right. I want to talk about myself.
Good. All right, we're back. Craig, what did you do with the rest of your time in Phoenix?
Well, I wanted to talk about the beer I'm drinking because it has something to specifically do with that.
Okay.
So I'm drinking a beer called Cold Boy Wally, which I tweeted it out from Wren House Brewing. Phoenix was actually, I had nothing to, I had no kind of assessment of Phoenix, but I had fun. I found Wren House Brewing was great. We went there. I went there with some friends. The first night I got in before the Coug party. And we just basically they had a bunch of kind of barrel-aged stuff that they had you could buy for on-premise, and then they had like a bunch of Pilsners, so I was trying a kind of wide variety of things from them, and they were very good. So yeah, and then the next day before the game, I was actually able to go up there and share some beers with Preston, the brewer owner. And he was really nice. They ended up getting slammed, so I probably didn't get to hang out with us as much, but he was really nice, and I knew he was a big barley wine fan, and so I brought some Pacific Northwest barley wines to share with him, and he was digging that. I actually heard about this brewery on a beer podcast called Malcouture I listened to, so we chatted about that a bit, and they seem like real down-to-earth people. I did run into someone who said they came to this brewery because of my recommendation on the podcast, so that made me feel pretty happy as I was sitting there drinking all day before the game. So that made me feel pretty good. If you ever head down to Tucson or Tempe and you want to make your way over to Phoenix, I recommend checking out Wren House. But yeah, the real thing. Or are you drinking a beer, Jeff?
I had one earlier tonight. I'm not having one right now, but I did have a Meowza double IPA from Georgetown because I stopped by Georgetown over the weekend. So that was good. So I had that. Excellent.
All right.
beer.
Yeah, I've had that one.
Yeah.
Damn good.
By
the way, the one I was drinking, it's a triple IPA with lactose in it. It's got a cute dog on the label, and apparently Wally is like one of the brewery person's dogs, and that's kind of they make this triple IPA and they make variants off of it, and they always call it Wally or something. So
yeah,
I thought that was cool.
I was pleasantly surprised to find out that the Meowza was canned. I hadn't seen it canned before. You probably have, but I had not.
Well, they had their first canning run a couple months ago. I know I brought some to some tailgates. So yeah, it's not an old thing. It's probably it's probably their second canning.
Got it. Yeah, I hadn't seen it around, but I also don't frequent a ton of beer stores that would carry something a little more obscure like that. Not that it's super obscure, but a little bit. Also picked up their barrel-aged porter, which I have not drank yet. Maybe I'll drink it on New Year's Day. I don't know. Anyway.
Nice.
Yeah, it was good. We got Sarah and I went up to Seattle. We had our anniversary last week, so we spent some time hanging out. We went to a seltzery. We went to the San Juan Seltzery in Seattle, which was, I don't know, whatever. Seltzer. Apparently seltzers are great. It actually is really great for Sarah because they're gluten-free, and that was really nice for her to be able to drink something that was gluten-free. So
yeah, everyone's digging the seltzers right now.
The food, by the way, was really, really good. So they, I'm trying to remember who now maybe it'll come to me. But anyway, the kitchen that they have there that they've partnered with was really, really good. The food was great. So if you're into seltzers and good food, I can recommend San Juan Seltzery in Seattle. The Rainier Cherry was my favorite flavor.
I have heard people love that flavor.
It's good. I was pleasantly surprised. Now I basically was just sipping on them while having my Bodhi, but I did taste it. It was pretty good. Did not like the watermelon. I thought it tasted like biting into a watermelon rind. I thought that was gross.
We'll have to do some seltzers in a
hot
summer
seltzer
podcast
talk.
or something.
We should do that. Hot seltzer talk.
Because there ain't no laws when you're drinking claws. So
it's true. It's 100% true.
But I
what
know
else
they've
did
done
you
some
do on
hot
your trip?
seltzer talk. They did some hot seltzer talk on Saturday.
On the Saturday cast, they did. So maybe, I don't know. Are we encroaching?
I don't want to encroach on their game.
We gotta be careful.
They're definitely better experts than I am.
So, dude, like, you've got to talk about the Fiesta Bowl. Like, this is what I want to hear.
So it's kind of funny. Like we floated the idea among our friends. I can't remember who did. Maybe it was Brian or someone else that maybe we should do this. And once we kind of committed to it, I kept getting more excited to the point where I was more looking forward to that than the WSU game. But yeah, it was wild. So I don't know if you went to like a Cardinals away game, but like there's like that stadium is weird. Like it's just kind of out, and then they have just like a mall basically they built next to it, like an outdoor mall with like a ton of restaurants and stuff. And it was just completely packed. And we were able to eventually find one, but we saw a few other Cougs coming in. We thought that was cool. But we got some pretty good seats in the lower level and in the Clemson section. Even though there was two Ohio State guys right next to us, it was like 70-30 Ohio State. So there was a lot of Ohio State people in the Clemson sections. Clemson's just too tired of going to the college football playoff at this point, I guess.
They just knew they were going to win.
Yeah.
They're like,
we're
saving up for New Orleans.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, if you had your choice,
definitely.
So
if in New Orleans, if you win the national championship, you could drink and they never stop you. It's just 24-hour days,
24
bars
hours a day.
there. Yeah, so it was amazing. Like you just go in, you're hoping you see something cool, you see a good game or whatever. But it was such a wild game, and the atmosphere was so cool just because of that. The Ohio State fans were getting real salty, and the Clemson fans were just, because their team came back, were like pretty overjoyed, and it was just a lot of fun. Like we were really into it. We were having a great time. We were jumping around and on the big plays, like Trevor Lawrence's
ridiculous run,
which it was just because it was pretty fun. BA and I kept bitching that they just kept running him, and we're like, why are they doing this? Like, he's getting hit, he's getting 4 yards. What is the point of this? Like, and then he just busts out.
Yeah, and then he did his Lamar Jackson impersonation.
Yeah, it's like I immediately looked up his 40 time, which was only 4.7. I was stunned. I guess when you get adrenaline, you can run a little faster.
Maybe I don't know, or when you just kind of open it up and
I
don't know, man.
Yeah, that was wild.
Hella fast.
Yeah. But yeah, or the first drive, Ohio State's first drive of the game, the leaping catch that got reviewed, that play live, that is the highest I've ever seen anyone jump in my life. Like he looked like and then plus after he got his legs taken out from under him, he was like 10 feet in the air. Like it was insane. Like
it's a different game with those teams.
Well, and yeah, that was our biggest just takeaway is
like the Pac-12 is nowhere near that level.
Yeah, the level of athletes in that game was crazy, and it was especially after watching the Cheez-It Bowl the day before, like it was just so wild to see, and you're just like, yeah, we're not at this level. Like we're just not even. It's crazy that we were even in the conversation to be in the college football playoff last season, up until the last game of the year, and just to think we're like WSU would just be getting walloped. Last year's WSU would just be getting walloped by either of these teams, just on athletes alone.
Yeah,
you just saw so many plays, and they're making them against like competition,
right?
Like these athletic plays, just made over and over again. Just especially the skill positions, and then like Ohio State's defensive line is incredible.
Yep. Those guys are all NFL players.
Obviously,
like every
Chase
last
Young,
one of them.
but like Chase Young is very obvious. But like, if he's not making a play, the other three are.
Yeah.
Like it was so wild watching them, and they just beat the hell out of Clemson for half the game, basically.
Yep.
Like just beating them up. Like Clemson, got pretty lucky. They got some big plays. They obviously had that last drive, that like 90+ yard drive that gave them the lead.
In like 30 seconds.
Yeah, that was insane. I turned to BA. I go, man, dude, this is what we wanted. This is the last drive of the game, and the game's on the line.
Right.
And then we laugh. Nope, it wasn't.
Not the last
State
drive.
one is. Yeah.
Too much time.
But it was like one of the coolest sports experiences I've ever had. Like it was so cool to see it, and it was really nice not having a rooting interest because you're just like. You're just enjoying every play that every player is making.
Yep.
Like, and you're just being amazed by it and watching the emotion of the fans, because it was such a, high stakes game. Like when Clemson got that last interception, just watching the Ohio State fan next to me, just, sulk down. And then the Clemson fans all around us, just like losing their minds. Like it was really cool. I'm really glad we did it. I'm glad we, forked out the money, and then we waited for like an hour to get an Uber after the game. And I actually I wasn't staying with the other, like BA and the other people. So, I gathered up three Wazoo fans and an Ohio State fan, and we're all staying in downtown Phoenix. It's at different hotels, and we were able to, it was just so hard to get an Uber, so we got a van. And
Glendale's way the hell out there, right?
Yeah, it's pretty far. It only took 20 minutes to get there, but it took it took a long time to get out. But so 20 minutes in Phoenix is like, that's it. It's so spread out. Like people are used to going that far for everything. But yeah, so and it was pretty nice. Like, so it was a pretty expensive fare. Like it was like 5 times as much as it was on the way in. So we all split it, which was nice. And then the Ohio State fan, he was basically settling up with me because I'm the one that paid for it. And he gave me money for my share as well. So
that's nice.
I had to give him a shout out, for that. So
nice job, Ohio State fan.
Yeah. So, and he was actually really positive. He's like, our kids played hard and they played great, and Clemson's tough, and we got a young team, and which they do, which is crazy. But
it is crazy.
Yeah, it's annoying.
That's good though, because like it seems like the playoff has really changed the fan satisfaction equation.
Yeah, now you
have a lot of people.
Well, I think it really started with the BCS, and then it's gotten worse with the playoffs. So like basically, the playoff is it, and then like now I'm sure for a program like Ohio State, like probably just getting to the playoff is not good enough for a lot of fans. So, yeah, so it was kind of cool, and then I got a free Uber downtown, and otherwise if I was going by myself, it would have been like $100+ plus. So,
good deal.
Yeah, well, we had met the other WSU fans on the way out, and I was like, "Where are you guys going?" And they're going downtown. I'm like, "Let's." We all had our phones out trying to catch an Uber, and I was basically the one that got one first.
Yeah.
And so luckily I had requested advance so we could add a couple people and make it a little cheaper. But it was just amazing experience. 100% would do it again. Like it makes you want to just like book tickets for a college football playoff game and go watch it. Or it makes me really want to go to the Final Four, actually, is what it does. Because I imagine it's a similar experience just in a basketball game. But like, yeah, it's pretty awesome. I'm glad I did it. Speaking of basketball, we probably should talk about basketball a little bit. For like a minute.
Not much has changed.
But we do have real
That's
games coming up this week.
Real deal games.
Not playing 340 plus ranked teams anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, so basically they more or less took care of business against the Arkansas Pine Bluff. It didn't, it was close for much of the game, but they pulled away and kind of won as you would expect by the end.
Yeah.
But yeah, here we go. We got USC coming up and UCLA this weekend. So that's what we got to talk about. USC's the biggest test of the year for them, and so that's
by a long shot.
Yeah, they're ranked 69th, which that means they're
nice.
Not a great team, but they're a nice team, of course.
They're very nice.
They're Dunk City West, and but yeah, so Ken Palm's got it as 62% the time USC winning and a 3-point average win. So
which isn't too bad.
Which isn't too bad. It means, hey, we have a decent shot. Whereas last year, if you're looking at just the improvement to go from the 200s to the 140s, means you got more of a shot to win. If you're that much better, you have a much better shot at beating some teams. But yeah, USC, I mean, the athleticism is going to be tough and the size is going to be tough. So we'll see how that goes. They do turn the ball over a fair amount, and they are really good at offensive rebounding. And they don't rely on the three that much, but they're good at shooting it. So if we could limit the threes, grab the rebounds, get a few turnovers, I think that's how you change this game, because they're probably going to dominate you, kind of around the basket, getting to the free throw line and stuff like that. So I hope not. It'll tell us I think it'll tell us a little more about the team to face this kind of middle of the roughly it's like a slightly above average Pac-12 team, I guess, this year. Is where USC would fall. They're kind of in the middle. They're kind of grouped up with teams like Stanford and Oregon State and stuff in terms of quality. I think UW's going to keep getting better because they got some youngins on their team. But yeah, so this is, kind of a nice barometer to see where the Cougs are at.
Yeah, it's I think kind of a bummer part is that they're not healthy going into it. They've had a lot of injuries this year that have been sort of like frustrating. Obviously we lost Deion James for the whole year, which put a crimp in the front court. And then Jalen Shedd has been out for a little bit, and he's going to be out this week also. So he's starting point guard, who has not been a huge contributor on offense, but has been really good defensively, and he's one of the guys who really makes that turnover machine go on defense. So, missing him, and Marvin Cannon's out right now. Now I don't know what his status is for this weekend, because that was a surprise one, because he had played last weekend and then didn't play yesterday. So not sure what his situation is exactly, but still, it's you'd like to have him. And then they've had other guys hurt at various times here. I mean, Markovetsky, the 7-footer, from Ukraine. He was dealing with, I think, an ankle injury early in the season. He, probably had his development stunted by that. Just kind of frustrating to do that. DJ Rodman got lots of not lots, but 10 plus minutes yesterday, while Cannon was out. So that seemed like a pretty like for like replacement there. Taylor Rapp got some run, or Ryan Rapp, sorry. Ryan Rapp. That's our guy. He got some run yesterday, in Shed's place. So, and he's looked okay. I've been kind of impressed with what I've seen from him in the very limited minutes. And Noah Williams had a really good game yesterday, which was nice. His offense is still very much a work in progress, but he does have, he's got the potential to be we've talked about this before. I mean, he's got the potential to be an absolute ridiculous defender when he gets real good. But he also seems to have a pretty nice feel for the game. He had a couple of buckets, had a really nice assist to CJ Ellaby that led to a bucket and one in transition. So, hopefully he's kind of figuring a few things out, and we'll be able to contribute. So
he's able to grab a rebound and start the break.
Yeah.
Because they use him to handle the ball quite a bit when he's on the floor. So that's a nice asset. You feel there's some pieces like him that could just break out for a game and get WSU a win that they might not have expected.
I am concerned in this game against USC with the offensive rebounding. Like that's kind of I don't like. Yeah. I think they can compete with the size in a lot of different ways, but they've really
WSU's offensive rebounding.
No. USC's offensive rebounding. They've got 3 guys rebounding their own misses at a greater than 9% clip, and they've got 2 guys above 12%. So that's and you figure those 3 guys.
Don't look at USC's team either, or UCLA's team either. Then
I mean, you figure those guys are on the floor. 2 out of the 3 are on the floor at the same time, if not all 3. So when you've got 3 guys, just absolutely annihilating people on the glass like that. We've struggled this year when we've played teams that have had enough size to get to the offensive glass. So I'm very curious to see if we're able to hold our own enough. And that's really how USC makes up for their turnovers, because they're pretty sloppy with the ball. It seems like they make up for their turnovers by getting extra possessions with offensive rebounds. So, yeah, I don't know. They're going to have to compete super, super hard. They're probably still going to give up a ton of them. And, maybe hopefully they don't give up too many to, give themselves a chance to maybe win the game.
Yeah, and then against UCLA, Mick Cronin's our coach, so they're looking pretty. It's crashing the boards. I mean, it has the feel of just looking at the one surprising thing is their defense, primarily their perimeter defense, is horrendous.
Which is super weird for a Mick Cronin.
They're giving up 40% from 3.
Yeah,
and they give up quite a few threes too. 40% of shots. So. It's kind of wild. They do rebound the ball really well on both ends of the floor.
Yep.
So they have Cody Riley's at 9% offensive rebounding percentage. Jalen Hill's at 14.4%. Like, they have some guys they're 6'9", 250, 6'10", 245. They're definitely guys that we don't have the size to contend with. So that'd be the concern there. But it's still UCLA is the one. Even with that you feel like better about getting. Yeah. Even Ken Palm has a predicted win 60% of the time, so which really is barely more than a coin flip. I know it sounds like a lot, but like 60-40 is not huge. I mean, but that's barely, if you flip it around, USC is just over 60-40. So so if you feel good about our chances against USC, you should feel that UCLA also has a pretty good chance against us. But basically, we get the bump because we're the home team in both those games.
Right.
But UCLA is only ranked 127. We're ranked 141. So
yeah.
UCLA is not a good team.
No.
They definitely are ripe to be beaten. They have been beaten by some bad teams this year, including Hofstra and Cal State Fullerton. So
current 3-game losing streak.
Yeah. I mean, if we played Notre Dame and North Carolina, we'd have a 2-game losing streak, probably.
Probably.
But we had Michigan State and BYU on the schedule. Probably wouldn't have gotten wins in those. But yeah, so they're definitely beatable. I'm not gonna go as far to say as we should beat them because I don't know how good the matchup is.
Yeah, I would agree.
Because teams with size have given us, like with athletic size, have given us trouble.
Yeah.
But they're not gonna. It's gonna come down probably if we can shoot a little better from the outside, which we haven't yet. Bonton did.
One of the big differences between UCLA and USC is that UCLA is a pretty poor shooting team. And that makes a big difference, particularly for us, the way we run our defense, trying to force a lot of iffy jump shots. That's probably a good thing.
Well, and on offense, they take very few. They have a very few 3-pointers. They take it on less than 30% of their shots, which is like 322nd. So that's good for us if they're a team that's just going to try to hit that mid-range more. I haven't dug into the hoop math stats. I don't think we have time to do it on this one anyway. But I think both these games, it could be a couple good games where WSU, puts up some fight in Pullman. So it's a bummer that there will be no one there because again, the Pac-12 has started WSU at home when the students aren't there
for the
as they
8 millionth year in a row.
Fucking do. So yeah, that's great. But yeah, if you want to drive over in what should be great weather to go watch it, then feel free. I don't know. I'm excited to check out the games this weekend and hopefully we can get a win. By the way, for those wanting to actually know, the games are on Thursday and Saturday. So
yep. Pac-12 Network.
You gotta the big one.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, let's it should be an interesting matchup again. We're banged up, but who knows?
I hope we get one of them.
Getting one of them would be awesome.
That'd be nice,
especially having Cal on the road next. You have a nice potential to start 2-1, or 2-2 after the first 2 weekends. Which would be big going into playing Oregon and Colorado, and I don't know. As always, the team is better, but the conference is always better. But they're currently so now that just so we can say it before Pac-12 play starts. KenPom has them pretty good at a 6-12 record, finishing 15-16. So. How would you feel about that if that's what happened?
I'd feel fine, I think. Yeah, I mean, I think it would depend a little bit on how you get there. That always sort of influences how you feel about those things. But at first blush, if they go 6-12 and somewhere in there, they've got some, maybe a couple close losses. They're hanging tough. And it just kind of doesn't go great. I mean, at this point, being respectable and 6 wins is, I think that's pretty respectable considering where we came from. So, that's a far cry from the 1 and 2 win embarrassments of Ernie Kent. So, you figure if you go, if you're going 6-12, you're winning 1 out of every 3 games. So, you're probably figuring there's not, a big, 8-game skid in there with that. And so, that makes you feel a little bit better about where you're going and about what Kyle Smith is building. So, yeah.
And again, we're heading into conference play. The average efficiency margin of Pac-12 teams, so their average difference between what they score points per possession adjusted and what they allow adjusted by opponent, is 10.41, which is almost 3 points per possessions away from or bigger than last year. and is the largest number since, I'm scrolling back here, since 2016. So the conference is better than it has been since 2016, deeper than it has been in a while. And that includes WSU's a lot better than they have been. Cal's a lot better than they were last year, even though they're still bad. There's most teams are better. There are a few exceptions, but it's going to be and then the top is much better, of course, with Oregon and Arizona. So it's going to be tough games, but WSU's at least a little better equipped this year than they were last year. If Ernie was coaching the team still against this schedule,
oh my God,
1 or 2 wins would be the expectation.
That would definitely be the expectation. So, yeah, it should be fun.
Cool. Basketball it up.
Yeah.
But starting next week, that's what we're mostly going to talk about. So get ready for it, everyone. Please come back.
We get to talk about a win or two.
So yeah, if you, Jeff and I really like talking about basketball. So hopefully, if you like listening to this, you'll enjoy listening to us talk about basketball. Hopefully WSU gets a few wins. But go ahead and, if you don't subscribe, if you're just here for the bowl game recap, please hit that subscribe button. And I think you'll like what you hear during the basketball season as well. And then, of course, we have the last signing day. So as we wrap up the recruiting class, and then there always seems to be football news. It was funny. We never ran out of things to talk about. Starting
we kept waiting for something
February.
To run out.
Yep. So we had a list of things and we didn't get to any of them so like and subscribe. I don't know why I say like, but subscribe to us, and rate us 5 stars if you can. Leave us a comment on the rating. Feel free, if you're a Cougs Center reader, to comment on the post we put on Cougs Center. We like to see that feedback as well. You can tweet us, mostly Jeff, at Pod versus Everyone. You can tweet me at the Craig Powers. Or if you really want to send us a question and don't want to do it on a public forum, podcastvseveryone@gmail.com. I haven't checked it in a while, but I do get notifications, so I don't think we've gotten many emails on it in a while. So I also haven't called it out in about 3 months. So
I forgot so speaking of listener interaction, somebody asked me like 2 weeks ago what we thought of the defensive coordinator situation and whether we should be concerned that there's not been a defensive coordinator yet. I'm not concerned. Are you?
No, I'm not concerned. There's a lot more dominoes to fall.
Yep.
And I don't know. We're probably going to play some sort of lottery to find. Hopefully, the next Grinch is one.
All right.
So you can
there
be
you go.
concerned by that, I guess, because.
Yeah.
But
there you go, Twitter guy. We answered your question.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not too concerned. There's nowhere to go but up.
All right. Cool. Well, Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year if you're listening on New Year's Eve or New Year's, because you have time off and you want to spend that listening to us. We appreciate it. Or if you're driving to work on New Year's or on January 2nd and you're still, got that extra hangover, that extra day hangover because you're old like Jeff, then
hey now.
We appreciate you listening, and sad to see football go. And, that's the worst part. But anyways, we will truck on and go Cougs.
Go Cougs.